It was a calm evening, and I had just completed my bedtime routine. Just as I was about to get into bed, my husband Moses entered the room. There was a playful expression on his face, and I could see something in his eyes that made me hesitate. His smile was broad, as if he had a secret he was eager to reveal. I recognized that look well. Over the years, my husband Moses had surprised me countless times, always discovering new ways to keep our relationship thrilling. However, tonight felt different. It wasn't merely the typical playfulness we often shared, it felt more profound, more intense, as if there was an unspoken connection between us. Moses approached me slowly, his eyes locked onto mine, exhibiting a gentleness in his actions yet also a sense of determination that quickened my heart. As he stood in front of me, he reached out and softly brushed a piece of hair away from my face. Once I climbed into bed, the soft sheets cool against my skin, I noticed Moses at the foot of the bed, his gaze directed at me, filled with a kind of quiet intensity that made my heart race slightly faster. I could sense he had something on his mind. The room was hushed except for the sound of our breathing, and the way he looked at me made me feel as though something significant was on the verge of occurring. He remained there for a moment, just observing me, before he finally broke the silence. "I have something I want to ask you," he said, his voice low and serious. It deviated from his usual playful tone, which piqued my curiosity. I raised an eyebrow, my heart now racing in my chest. "What is it?" I asked, a slight smile dancing on my lips. I couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. James always had a way of keeping me alert, always surprising me with something unexpected. But this time, there was an unusual quality in the way he spoke, something that suggested this was more than just a casual request. Gradually, Moses walked around the bed and sat next to me. He reached out and softly took my hand in his fingers warm and firm. I gazed into his eyes and noticed something there, a blend of anticipation and affection, as though he had been contemplating this for some time and was finally ready to confide in me. "Trust me," he whispered, his voice barely a breath. His eyes searched mine for that trust, that bond we had cultivated over the years. "I want to try something new tonight." Moses positioned himself near the bed's edge and requested that I lie back. "Spread your legs," he said gently, almost cautiously, as if he were gauging my reaction. I could feel my heart race at his words. This was unlike anything we had ever done before. I gradually opened my legs, and he knelt between them, his gaze filled with both affection and a depth that hadn't been present for a long time. "I want to show you something," he whispered softly. He extended his hand gently, tracing his fingers along my skin. I felt exposed, yet there was something thrilling about this exposure. My husband Moses had always provided me with a sense of security, and tonight was no exception. I shut my eyes, allowing myself to embrace the moment. What unfolded next was entirely unexpected. Moses leaned in closer, and I could perceive the expression in his eyes. He placed his hand softly on my thighs, causing a mix of nerves and excitement to bubble within me. His warm breath brushed against my skin, sending a surge of shivers up my spine. I had never experienced anything like that before. To my astonishment, he did something I never imagined he would. He kissed me right then and there. It was a tender and gentle kiss, akin to a whisper, feeling both special and intimate, as if we were in our own private world, apart from everything else. I could scarcely believe it was occurring. And my heart began to race. A soft gasp slipped from my lips as an overwhelming sensation flooded over me, akin to a warm wave. This was not merely a physical feeling, something profound stirred deep within my heart, as well. What Moses was doing felt unique and significant. He had always been kind and considerate, but this was so much more. It felt as though he genuinely cared for me in a manner I had never experienced before. I could see it in his eyes and the way he moved. It was as if he desired to know every facet of me, not just the exterior but the interior as well. This newfound level of care and dedication made my heart flutter with joy. I realized this was not just a fleeting moment, it was something enchanting that connected me to him in an unforeseen way. I yearned to hold on to this feeling eternally, like a lovely memory I could cherish in my heart. I gently opened my eyes and glanced down at Moses. He was returning my gaze with a warm smile, and I noticed the sparkle of affection and desire in his eyes. At that moment, I grasped something profoundly significant. He loved me deeply, not merely as his wife but as a woman deserving of being cherished and admired. It felt as though I was viewing him through an entirely new lens. The way he regarded me made me feel unique, as if I was the most important person in his world. I could tell he valued everything about me, from my laughter to my aspirations. This love was immensely powerful, filling my heart with joy and instilling a sense of safety within me. As our relationship evolved, so did the trust between us. My husband Moses had always been my support, but now I felt like I could disclose anything to him, even my deepest thoughts and emotions. It was as if that night had unlocked a door to a more profound connection between us. We began spending additional time together, not only in the bedroom but in every part of our lives. We laughed more, communicated more, and loved more openly. I felt like we were rediscovering the enchantment that had united us. In the first place, my husband James continued to astonish me, not only in the bedroom but in every facet of our relationship. He was more considerate, more loving, and more open with his emotions. It was as if that night had brought us nearer together in ways I hadn't foreseen. One evening, while we were lying in bed, I chose to express my feelings to James. "You've truly astonished me," I confessed. I didn't anticipate things to transform so significantly. After all this year, Moses smiled, drawing me closer. "I've always aimed to make you happy," he said gently. I suppose I just discovered new ways to express it. The more we delved into one another emotionally and physically, the more I recognized how much love we still had to offer. It was as if we were uncovering new dimensions to our relationship, dimensions that had always existed but hadn't been completely explored. One night, following another intimate experience, we stayed up conversing late into the night. James shared insights with me that he hadn't revealed before, his insecurities, his aspirations, and his fears. I listened attentively, astonished at how vulnerable he was prepared to be with me. "I've always feared that I wouldn't be sufficient for you," he revealed, "but I aspire to keep surprising you, keep making you happy." Hearing him open up like that made my heart overflow. "You've always been more than enough," I comforted him, gently caressing his face. "And every day you demonstrate that to me." One evening, after a particularly tiring day, we found ourselves laughing together about the most trivial things. The joy in the simplicity of our relationship had become a foundation of our happiness. That night, as we lay in bed, something felt different. There was an undeniable sense of intimacy, as if our bond had reached its profoundest level. Moses always aimed to surprise me, suggested something unconventional, something playful and spontaneous. He gently pulled me off the bed, and before I realized it, we were under the bed, concealed in that small intimate spot. The laughter between us faded, replaced by the quiet intensity of the moment. What started as playful quickly transitioned into passionate. Under the low ceiling of the bed, we connected in a manner we hadn't previously. There was something about the enclosed space, the warmth of the night, and the deep love we shared that made it unforgettable. That night, unbeknownst to us, marked the beginning of a new chapter in our lives. Weeks went by and I started to feel odd little things I'd never paid attention to before: fatigue, nausea, and a change in my appetite. It didn't take long before I came to understand what was occurring. I was pregnant. The realization hit me like a wave, but it was a wave of pure joy. When I informed Moses, his eyes shone with excitement. We had always discussed the idea of starting a family, but now that it was truly happening, it felt like a dream come true. Months later, after what seemed like both an eternity and the shortest time of my life, the day arrived. To our astonishment, I gave birth to not just one child but two twins, a boy and a girl. The joy was overwhelming, and James, always composed in every situation, shed tears of happiness as he held them in his arms. Gazing at our twins, I recognized that everything we had endured had brought us to this moment: the trust, the intimacy, the growth we had undergone together. It had all prepared us to become the parents we now were. Life with twins was chaotic, but in the best possible way. Every sleepless night, every weary morning, and every moment of joy reminded us of the love we had cultivated together. Our relationship had evolved from something beautiful into something extraordinary, and now we were constructing a family upon that foundation. As I observed Moses tend to our children with the same tenderness and love he had shown me all those years. I realized how fortunate I was to have him. We had experienced so much together, from moments of vulnerability and passion to laughter and tears. Each experience had fortified our bond and equipped us for this new chapter as parents. Moses and I frequently reminisced about the nights under the bed, laughing at the spontaneity of it and marveling at how it led to the greatest surprise of our lives. Our twins became the living proof of our love, a reminder that love, when nurtured, can yield the most unexpected and wonderful blessings. And so our journey continued, not just as husband and wife but as a family. Life wasn't always perfect, but with Moses alongside me, I knew we could face anything that came our way. We had created something strong and lasting, and now we had the joy of sharing it with our two beautiful children. In the end, love had surprised us in more ways than one. It had drawn us closer together, it had taught us how to trust and communicate, and it had given us the greatest gift of all, our family. And as we looked forward to the future, I knew that our love would keep growing, evolving, and surprising us in ways we could never imagine.